Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm your host, Dave. Here with me, you don't know Dak, and the Fresh Prince of Hell Air, Anthony and Moose.
Hello!
What's up?
And those are their official team names to start the year in our home keeper league, which we just drafted last night. So obviously Anthony is a Hilaire guy, and Moose, as you know from listening to the podcast, he's a big Dak guy. So he does know Dak. How are you guys feeling about the draft yesterday?
I feel great.
Fantastic.
I think I've got a great team.
Much better than last year. I feel very confident with my team.
It's hard for me to be better than last year, but I think they'll do a good job.
Mm-hmm. Last year was a showcase in you did actually last year drafted pretty well and waiver wire genius. I mean, after you traded for Dak last year, and then he gets injured right away, you had to do some maneuvering, some fandangoing your way to an epic championship.
QB streaming.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people panic if they make a big trade like that, a big name guy gets injured, done for season. You can't panic. The waiver wire is an endless pit of players.
Basically, my strategy was find anybody who's playing the Jets was my quarterback, and then in all cases get a defense that was also playing the Jets.
Well, that's still, I mean, you've picked the Jets to be last place, or we have a bet Houston versus Jets, whoever finishes last.
Yeah.
I mean, so you think the Jets will still be playing...
This was pre Zach Wilson, so I Texans probably will be lower than the Jets, but
the bet wasn't made pre Zach Wilson.
It was made before he ever took a snap. That's for sure.
Okay.
But I honor my bets. So he's only we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him. Well, I mean, some people bailed on bets last year, if I remember correctly.
Who did that?
It was a certain amount of waters drank instead of beers, possibly.
When? What are you talking about, man? Blasphemy, lies. Are you me or Anthony?
Well, you're the water drinker, so I don't think he's directing those at me. And I have endless stories of me chugging beers because I lost a lot.
Yeah, you drank like 14 beers one day. That was
we'll see. Zach Wilson still has to play through the season. He looks like he could have some promise in the end. So we'll see what happens.
That we will. And who knows? Deshaun Watson could even come back and save Houston.
I think that's a long shot at this point.
Compared to him getting traded or just in general?
I think
likely?
I think the legal issues are just going to drag on all season.
Mm-hmm.
And until they, have a solution to the legal issues or the league.
Hold on. He's allowed to play. The ball's in his court. If he chooses to play for Houston, he can play week 1, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's up to him. It's if he decides, all right, fine, I'll play for Houston and then trade me next season, then that's his choice.
Yeah. Okay. But I think until a suspension is, made or not made, or until the legal issues are resolved, or until they trade him, he's not going to play.
Fair enough.
Well, and I don't think after week 1 we'll know who the worst team is yet with your beer bet because two terrible teams are playing each other. Houston's playing Jacksonville, so can they both lose?
Someone will have a win, yeah.
Well,
they could tie.
Or
they
tie.
Could tie. They could tie 12-12.
Jets are playing Panthers. We don't know. That's an interesting one. Darnold going against his own team.
Panthers are good. Panthers are decent. Panthers will be like
it's
basically almost 500.
First headline: they signed Royce Freeman.
The Panthers?
Yep.
Sweet. I mean, kind of sucks for Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, and you guys wanting to pick Chuba Hubbard yesterday, but
I think Chuba Hubbard slots in ahead of Royce Freeman.
He should. He's good. But they need depth. You
How
can't just
good
have two
is he?
guys, right? Chuba Hubbard is really good running back. You'll see.
We've talked about him
I mean,
endlessly on the podcast.
If he's worse than Royce Freeman, then the Panthers are in big trouble because they really have no depth then.
They can't play Christian McCaffrey 100% of snaps. So we'll find out who the other good player is.
I'm not saying he won't be a bad backup. I'm just saying if Christian McCaffrey goes down, I don't think you're getting a Mike Davis performance out of Chuba Hubbard.
I think you would maybe even better than Mike
Really?
Davis last year. Oh yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that because if McCaffrey goes down, I'll make that beer bet with you.
Why don't you just make the beer bet?
This might not even happen.
Does
So,
Chuba's name
just
sound like a train?
make the bet contingent on if it happens.
Okay. You want to do a contingent?
What's
bet?
the beer bet? No.
Yeah,
Contingency beer
if
bets.
Chuba Hubbard gets in a situation where he is the starting running back, the beer bet is that he would outperform Mike Davis from last year.
Yeah, but then you gotta be games played, points per game basis.
No.
Can it be points per game basis? Then no, I'm not taking the bet. Does Chuba's name sound like a train? Chuba, 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 Chuba. Does that work? Does that work?
I know we're a G
Chuba train?
podcast, but
That
we're
is
not
the-
like a cheesy
That is the
podcast.
sound of a train. Yes.
Okay, great. Just checking.
Just
Just
so
checking.
corny.
The real question is, because I've seen this before and there's quite a bit of debate about it, is how many chews before a woo?
Hold on. You do
Or
a train
or how
noise.
many
Do a
how
train
many
noise.
how many chugga chuggas before a woo woo?
Chugga.
It usually takes me one chug of a beer to be going woo. But you do your train noise.
Mine's just like Anthony's.
I wasn't listening when
Chugga. Choo.
See, I think
Say
Anthony,
chugga chugga?
Anthony, you maybe do one more chugga chugga than I would.
Okay.
Way too many chugga chuggas.
Did you ever see that movie Major Payne? I'm doing it based on how long he did his when he
What?
was telling the story to the kid.
Movie. Which Wayans brother is in that one?
It's
See?
Damien?
It's the oldest brother, I think.
No, it's
Marlon?
the second oldest.
It's the funniest. It's the funniest.
Yeah,
of
it's the
Wayans
funniest
brothers.
brother, but it's the second oldest.
Well, that Major Payne's felt classic. You know when the
Yeah.
kid has a broken finger?
Yeah.
No, he hurt himself and then he's like breaks his finger to like
Or he was
the
going to break
attention
his
away
finger.
from
Yeah.
just fantastic.
Anyways,
Oh, good stuff. All right, let's get in some headlines, guys. We were talking quarterbacks before we started making train noises. And in quarterback news, Cam Newton has been released by the New England Patriots. Kind of old news by now, but we got to talk about it. So Mac Jones is the official starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Talk to me, guys. Is this good for
This
the
is great.
receivers? Is it good for the running backs? What do you think?
This is great for everybody.
yes.
This is great for the locker room. It's
Except
great
Andy.
for the organization. It's great for Mac Jones. It's great for the receivers. You're right. It's great for everybody except Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe his mom, Cam Newton's mom. I feel like she'd be disappointed too.
Okay.
Like if you got cut, if you got released or fired, your mom would be pretty upset. I think. So it's good for everyone, but it's good for everyone on the Patriots. So now,
It's good. It's good for everyone on the left side of the field as well.
okay, yes. I think this is even better for the running back. So you can
Yes.
still argue there's a committee, but now there's red zone opportunity because you got to factor in that Cam Newton had 12 rushing tutties last year. I can't see Mac Jones doing rushing for more than like a quarterback sneak or every now and then a little scramble. Like he could, but that means it opens up for and I don't know who's going to be their red zone guy. Probably change from week to week, but Damien Harris's stock goes up a little bit. Ramondre Stevenson definitely because he's a power back. James White, I don't know. But I think Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson get a little boost.
So are you a little higher on Damien Harris now, Moose, since Cam's not there?
No, it's for me. It's the exact
You
same
don't
situation.
think so? The 12 rushing touchdowns won't increase Damien Harris's value.
I mean, one, we have to see if Mac Jones can get the Patriots to the red zone in a real NFL game.
Better than Cam, right?
We would hope so. Yes.
Well, you just said he's going to be better for everyone.
Yeah.
So obviously,
in the long term, for sure, I would rather have. I'd rather
are we
have
talking
Mac Jones.
dynasty or redraft, Moose? Get your act
Well,
together.
redraft, you're not taking Mac Jones, but we're talking about can he get them
Well,
down the field?
We
You
were
said it's-
talking about the New England Patriots. If we're talking fantasy, I don't think anything has really changed. It's
You're a guy that makes fun of Cam Newton's throwing ability. So this is not better for receivers. I'm not saying the receivers.
it's slightly better, but I don't think it's like astronomically better.
Well, I don't think I still agree. You're not taking any of these receivers higher than where they were. But I think for
you're not going to know if it's going to be Ramondre or if it's going to be Damien Harris getting those goal line, getting those goal line touches.
Moose, is it?
Did we make a beer bet about this?
Hold on. Is it uncomfortable, Moose? Is it? I have a question for you. Is it uncomfortable?
Is what uncomfortable?
Sitting on the fence so hard like you are. Choose a side, man. You can't say it can't. You can't first on one hand say this is way better for everyone on New England. Then the other say, but I don't know if the running backs are getting a boost.
Yeah, because we were talking about football and then we switched to fantasy. I still wouldn't touch the New England.
I forgot to remind you this is a fantasy football podcast.
I still wouldn't touch the New England backfield.
All right, so Moose is not touching.
Didn't we do?
I think Damien Harris is a great pick.
Didn't we do a Damien Harris beer bet with Moose? Or
yeah, it was. If Damien Harris scores any points in fantasy, yeah, Moose loses. I think that's what it was.
Well, just in case we didn't do one, I say Damien Harris top 15, or within
top 15.
Within the 15.
What do you mean?
Like
what's the difference between
fantasy,
within and top?
Well, I mean top 15.
So
okay.
he'll be amongst
top
the top
15
15 fantasy
running
backs
back. Yeah,
by end of year.
By end of year.
Wow.
No, by mid.
You should be drafting him way earlier then. Where did you rank him, Anthony? You didn't rank him in your top 24.
Well, I ranked him before Cam Newton left.
So you're thinking he's getting a huge
this is my idea behind it.
Talk to us.
Who says Ramondre? Did I say it properly enough?
Not even close.
I don't think so.
Just say Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson.
Rahamondre?
That was good. That was better.
Okay.
Like last night on halftime. Listeners, if you're not already listening to us on halftime, get on it. Every
What are you
Wednesday
doing
live
for
on Halftime Sports, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. But Anthony was having trouble with a gentleman who's drafting in our 3B halftime bowl, saying, and his name was Jimmy Garoppolina, and Anthony couldn't figure it out. It's Jimmy Garoppolina. Just having so much trouble with it. Jimmy
Because I'm
Garoppolina.
trying to make a point, and then I have to say this long name, and I want to say Garoppolo.
But if you can
then
say Garoppolo, it's pretty much the same.
Anyways,
Garoppolina.
let's get back on track here. So the reason why I raised Damien Harris is because, in my opinion, I don't think Rahamondre will take that much work away from him or the red zone touches away from him. So I think those 12 touchdowns, Rahamondre will get some. James White might get some. We know that Damien Harris is not the receiving back. So we know they'll probably give it to him on the goal line, and the other guys will probably get more work, on third down and all that stuff. But I think Damien Harris is the guy to punch it in the end zone. So I think his touchdowns will go up. I think if he's healthy the entire season, his yardage will for sure go up, and it'll launch him into that top 15 category. I know the New England Patriots.
Wild though. You just moved him up like 15 spots.
So let's make
because
this one
a change of quarterback. That's
let's make this
aggressive.
a bold. Let's make this a bold bet then. If that's ridiculous, I'll make it a bold bet. 2 beers, which is our bold bet rule.
Sure.
Well, here's the only thing. We've already seen 3 running backs get injured. 3 top 15 running backs.
Hey, Dave.
Cam Akers, Travis Etienne.
Does it hurt?
And
Does it hurt?
No, I'm just talking about beer bets here, man.
Sounds like you're right next to me on the fence.
Well, Mike Davis finished in the top 15 last year, so anyone could.
I straight up took this bet. I'm taking it.
Oh,
you're on, Anthony.
I'm not taking it. Where did you have Damien Harris previously? Anyways, we got to move on. All right, Damien Harris top 15.
I didn't realize beers moved people up and down the rankings.
Beers beats Battlestar Galactica. Let's keep going.
Well, he likes to drink water. That's why he's all nervous.
We're talking about me?
Yeah, take the bet.
No, I'm not taking that bet. I've taken.
He doesn't know what side he's on.
On this podcast, I've taken the most beer bets so far, and won the most beer bets. All right, N'Keal Harry's on the IR, just so you know. Staying with the Patriots. Moving on from there, Keke Coutee was waived by the Houston Texans and then signed by the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, T.Y. Hilton is injured and not able to go. What else is new? Must be a day that ends in Y when T.Y. Hilton injury news is out. Keke Coutee, any interest there, guys? Deep sleeper?
Yeah, absolutely. You should definitely watch the waiver wire and news on Keke Coutee because he's talented, and if it's the health.
Yeah,
if he's healthy, for sure pick him up.
So you rank the Colts receivers as?
Well, right now it would be Pittman, Campbell, Pascal. But I think if Keke Coutee is still on the practice squad, like he's not part of the team yet. Okay. So that's what I'm saying. You got to watch the news, wait, but definitely have him as a waiver wire targets at some point in the season if it works out.
And it would just be great if he could get on the team and be productive, because then people will be picking him up on waiver wire, and it just gives you more options for your team names. The Keke, the QT,
And Paris Campbell and Zach Pascal are injury prone themselves, so Keke Coutee can find himself. Like,
to be fair, I think Paris Campbell only had one in football injury. The rest were various car accidents and other things.
Still counts.
Yeah.
The Colts are a bit of a, like, I know Carson Wentz, that's another Colts headline. Carson Wentz is off of IR, should be good to go week 1, which is wild. Very quick recovery, but they're a bit of a mess. They have 3 people they put on the COVID-19 reserve list.
They're all off. They all came off.
Everybody's off? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And this COVID thing. Hey, the Bucs, the Buccaneers. Here's another reason to pick the Bucs is to repeat as Super Bowl champions. 100% vaccinated, their entire team and organization. They are not going to encounter, or they would much less likely to encounter COVID issues. Because of course, if you don't already know, listeners, if someone on a team who isn't vaccinated gets COVID and it causes a little outbreak and they can't play the game, you forfeit that week. So,
nobody gets paid on either side.
Yeah, which is
I forgot about that.
Which is an important piece there. Anthony, did you have more on Colts, or I thought you were going to say something about Keke? No,
I mentioned those the guys already there. They're injury prone, so he can find himself in the lineup faster than we think. I know Moose is being, a believer in Keke Coutee, and I believe in his talent as well. So I was hoping when he was released, I said right away that hopefully a team picks him up and you'll get a chance. So I think this is the right team for him to prove himself.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Other headlines: Irv Smith Jr., tight end for the Minnesota Vikings, likely out for the season. Yep. They picked up Chris Herndon. So now the tight ends in Minnesota are Herndon and Ty Conklin. Are you guys interested in either of these guys, or is it just the Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen show plus Dalvin Cook?
You're not drafting any of them.
I mean, if you desperately somehow needed Gronklin, I'd pick him up.
Gronklin. If your team,
but I would never
3 tight ends, then you might be
I would never find myself in a situation where I would be reaching that deep for a tight end.
All right. Brandon Aiyuk yet to resume practicing. He has an injured hamstring. You like to see that. You like to see injured hamstrings. So are we moving more towards the Debo train in San Francisco after George Kittle, of course, who's an absolute beast?
Yep.
I'm going to say not at all until we actually see him. Like if he starts missing games, then yes, for sure. But let's see how bad his hamstring is.
Okay. I know Anthony was already targeting Debo over Brandon Aiyuk in drafts.
Yeah.
And I think I got to go Debo.
I love them both. I don't think you can go wrong.
Right.
Like either one, you're going to be having a good time.
They're 2 different types of receivers. But they'll both be helpful to the San Francisco 49ers, but I think he's my sleeper this year.
Yeah, he can definitely be considered a sleeper. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So stay tuned on that Aiyuk news, especially if you've already drafted Brandon Aiyuk. Stay tuned for that. Might not be able to play in week 1. We'll see. All right. Baltimore, we got Rashod Bateman and Myles Boykin. That's just a funny name. I like Boykin. They're put on IR, so they're going to miss at least 3 games.
Yeah.
So pay attention there.
Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews is the guy.
If you
catch
draft
passes
him
in Baltimore,
you're starting him. So
Sammy Watkins gonna be back for week 1.
It's true. Sammy Watkins will probably be the number 1 wide receiver in the league week 1.
And
then terrible the rest of the year.
Him and Deshaun Jackson.
Should Lamar start throwing to himself, just tossing it up and running it down? I mean, is that maybe it's a viable option? Then he would get double the points for fantasy. He'd get he'd get the passing yards, he'd get the receiving yards, he'd get both touchdowns. Probably a good strategy. I think that would be wise. Nothing from Anthony. He's like, these jokes are terrible. You got to watch YouTube. You got to see on YouTube how disappointed he is with our corny jokes. It's always
he's vexed.
It's always encouraging. All right, Anthony, talk to us about Breshad Perriman.
I mean, it's
and your Chicago Bears.
The Bears, I don't know. Sometimes they want to pick up these receivers, these guys that, I mean, the Detroit Lions didn't want anything to do with him. They paid him $2 million, and you would think that when you pay somebody that money, you'd keep him at least on your team. But nope, they released him. The Bears pick him up. And I mean, if Detroit doesn't think he's good enough to be a receiver on their team,
I know.
I
almost like if you get cut as receiver from the Detroit Lions, that's not good. No other team should pick him up. Here's maybe this is it, Anthony. Maybe they're just like, it's a division rival. Chicago just wanted to pick him up and be like, all right, what's their playbook? What's the plays they're running? Give us the info. And then that's all they picked him up for. Maybe that was
it. I had actually seen an article out of Detroit that Breshad's knee biting game was pretty weak.
If you don't get that joke, you got to go search Dan Campbell press conference, Detroit Lions, and then biting the kneecaps. Yeah, the Lions are just not so good. But so that means, for the Lions, TJ Hawkinson is the guy. And then I really think Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially in PPR leagues, I think he's going to be huge. And maybe Tyrell Williams, maybe.
I think
he looked good.
This is a bit of a double-edged sword, though, because like you're not wrong in saying that he's going to be huge, but like he could also just be terrible. Because he's the only guy catching the ball. Like it's one of those situations. Like someone's got to catch it, but
yeah, because he is putting on a Detroit Lions sweater. I'm sorry, Lions fans, but
if we were hearing talk about him at camp as if he was like Elijah Moore, then we'd have a little bit more confidence. But I mean, they said he's talented, he looks good, but nothing crazy has been talked about his talent going into the season. So I mean, he didn't get cut, which is a start.
But I don't even blame Amon-Ra. It could be Jared Goff. Jared Goff could be just tossing him terrible balls.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown still very good sleeper contender, because Elijah Moore in drafts, you have to draft maybe in round 11, somewhere around there, 11, 10 to 12 range. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, traditionally you can get him like last pick in your draft, so there's a bit of a gap there. So he's one of those flyers. If he doesn't pan out, but I think he's a great upside sleeper. All right, this one's kind of important. Wayne Gallman signed to the Falcons. The Falcons cut Moose. How do you say this one? Is it Qadree or Qadree?
I think it's just Qadree.
Qadree Ollison. Qadree Ollison cut by the Falcons. They signed Wayne Gallman. Sort of significant because before, it was pretty much only Mike Davis. They cut Javian Hawkins, the rookie. So now they do have a backup who's capable. Wayne Gallman is capable. So it won't be the 100% Mike Davis show this year. He'll have, which is probably good for Mike Davis Mike Davis owners.
What's crazy about the whole thing is that they had nothing but good things to say about Qadree. And now their backfield is Mike Davis, Wayne Gallman, and Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's not.
They got rid of all
backfield.
They got rid of all their rookie talent. They cut all their rookie talent as well.
Yeah, but they'll be okay. I mean, they're gonna be passing the ball a lot. Kyle Pitts, of course. Moose is psyched. He has Kyle Pitts and George Kittle in our keeper league.
Yeah.
Could you see a situation where you keep both those guys next year? Let's say Kamara's gets hurt or something. Knock on wood. We don't want that.
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
That would be. I thought about it. Don't think it hasn't crossed my mind. I thought about it, but that would be. It would have to be the most absurd. Like Kyle Pitts would have to be ridiculous.
Okay. To keep both, yeah, it might happen. All right. Last headline we have on the list: Giovani Bernard injured. How bad is this injury, guys? I picked him up as a depth piece in Dynasty. Is he out for weeks?
I to be honest, I don't know what the injury is.
All right, we got to check that out. So Tampa Bay picked up Darwin Thompson, Kansas City Chiefs, former Kansas City Chiefs running back. He's a little guy. He's quick. But Tampa has so much depth. Moose, what do you do? So if you're someone,
he has a mild high ankle sprain. The high ankle sprains
not good. Those
are not the good ones.
No, they're not good.
None of them.
They're nagging. But high ankle sprain particularly.
I know.
So what do you do with the Tampa Bay backfield? So I know, Moose, you would probably recommend not drafting them. Let's say someone has drafted Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette or whatever. What do you do? How do you start? How do you play these guys? We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the opening kickoff to the NFL season game, Dallas Cowboys, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So maybe we'll save it for there.
You take a notepad, you write down the mistake you made, and you never make it again
by drafting them.
We'll
hold on now. There's value everywhere. Because if we'll get into
save it for that segment.
All right. That's it for headlines. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a phone ringing. My apologies, guys. I am currently in a house that has a landline. That's embarrassing. But so if you hear,
I think all our parents have landlines. I think.
Nope. Yeah.
No, not yours.
No. My parents got rid of it. My parents got rid of it years ago.
Amazing. I'm trying to get my parents to get rid of it. It's just not happening. They refuse.
What's the oldest phone you remember? Did you
my,
ever, in like your grandma's house, did you ever have like
yeah.
the turning phone?
The
Like
black one.
It's called a rotary phone.
Rotary. Thank you, Moose. And if you type in the area code, and then the numbers, and then you make a mistake on like the second last digit, you're like, dear Lord, you gotta hang up and start rotaring all over again. Man, kids these days just will never know that.
Well, kids just have to deal with autocorrect now, which is probably worse.
Nobody knows how to spell. Except those kids in the Crips spelling bee. They can spell the heck out of words. Yeah, they could spell rotary like that. R-O-T-A-R-Y. But anyways, what do we got? What do we got next, guys? Is that it for headlines?
Well, you said it was the last one.
Oh, yeah, my phone rang. That's why. All right, let's go. So, main topic of the day.
No, hold on. We were talking about Gio Bernard.
Oh, okay.
Well, I guess we're getting into that in the second segment
or the third. I don't know where Dave has slotted in that segment because it's
so we're just going to talk about all Tampa Bay related things later.
Let's talk about it now since it flows so well. So we're talking about Tampa Bay. First game of the season this Thursday coming 1 week from today. We're recording on Thursday, September 2nd. I've lost track of the days on vacation. I'll need a vacation from this vacation, by the way, guys. So Dallas Cowboys, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, week 1, kick off the NFL season. Start sit decisions. What are we thinking here?
You start everyone on Dallas except Pollard and Gallup.
And when we say everyone, we mean everyone who's...
So you're starting Amari Cooper, you're starting CeeDee Lamb, you're starting Dak, you're starting Ezekiel Elliott. Tight ends, I don't want anything to do with their tight ends. Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin, they're both talented tight ends. I say you don't start one of those guys for week 1, especially
definitely a wait and see situation.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is a very good defense. So I would say wait on the tight ends. Don't play them week 1. And yeah, Gallup. I mean, you could take a shot on Gallup week 1, but it is a tough defense. And I mean, he's gonna be.
Yeah, but nobody picked up Gallup to start.
Right. So
you probably draft him a little bit later.
And if you're gonna,
I mean, with
him, it's matchup based.
If you're starting him in your flex. I don't think he's a terrible flex. If you're
in terrible flex, but
you're in a situation where you need to start him, I think he's a perfectly fine flex.
But against a tough D, I wouldn't start him this week.
Yeah, I don't know about flex. Well, you never know. I think he is a wait and see. So a general rule, do you guys have a week 1 rule for start sit where you don't really make any wild decisions and you just draft? You put your top guys or the guys that you drafted to be your top guys in the lineup and then just see what happens.
Well, I think you got to look at it starting from the flex spot. When you draft your starting running backs, your starting wide receivers, and if you didn't wait too long on tight end, those guys are, and your QB, those guys are pretty much slotted in. Right. It's when you look at your flex, because you have to make the decision, is my running back or my next wide receiver stronger? Which one's stronger of the two? Which position am I going to play in that flex? Do I have a second tight end that is better than my running back and wide receiver in that flex spot? If you have a tight end, if you set it up to have a tight end in your flex spot as well. So I think that's where you have to start to look at it, and based on matchups as well, week 1. I mean, the way the defenses are, it's not going to be identical, obviously, to last year. So, I mean, you can only go off the information you have from last season and just the rankings from the real NFL analysts. So that's what you have to base it off of.
And trust your gut.
And trust your
gut.
Put
your best gut forward. And I can tell you right now that currently I'm seeing the line for the Dallas Cowboys Tampa Bay Buccaneers game as 51 points. And Tampa Bay is favored by 8. So they're projecting a roughly 30-22 win. Or 30 to, that's a little too much. So 1 too much. 29-22 win, whatever, for the Tampa Bay Bucs. So not super high scoring. I like the over in this game. Like 2 really good offenses, defenses. First week you're gonna make mistakes. So I think it'll be pretty high scoring. So I think you're playing. You're not worried about playing anybody in this game, even though the Bucs defense is fantastic.
Well, I think you always worry if you're starting any of the receivers in Tampa Bay.
Okay, so talk about that for our listeners who have Tampa Bay receivers.
Yeah, so Tampa Bay's wide receivers are all very talented, and there's quite a bit of depth. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown,
Scotty Miller,
Rob Gronkowski.
There's that the rookie too, Tyler Johnson.
Second year, but he's good.
Sorry, he was a rookie last season.
Yep.
So
OJ Howard.
Dave, you brought up the idea of them resting Gronk for playoffs.
Yeah.
There's no reason they don't do that with every other position too, because they could. Yeah. So it's a risk. I think Mike Evans will be out there. Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, maybe interchanging.
The only thing with Mike Evans is that he doesn't need a lot of targets to be productive. We've seen games where gets 0 catches, 0 receptions the whole game, and then towards the end of the game, catches 2 touchdowns. And you're like, boom,
there's his 12 points. Yeah.
So I think you're starting Mike Evans no matter what. I mean, you can't sit Godwin. You're not going to sit Godwin, not in week 1.
Well, that's the hardest part is you can't sit them because they're very talented.
The only one I think you sit again, like looking at the matchups, and just waiting to see. You didn't draft Antonio Brown to start. Maybe in your flex, depending if you waited on wide receiver. But I would say that wait and see week 1. Dallas is a terrible defense. So they're ranked at the low 20s.
They were a terrible defense.
Yeah, they were, but they're still going into the season. I read a couple articles from different sites.
Mock draft.
Right now, no, not mock draft, real NFL and fantasy rankings. So their ADP is very low. People are not drafting them as a defense. They're ranked.
People are thinking about last season. But I think
I talked about real NFL too. So what they've seen at camp and everything.
Their weakness is still corner and safety.
Yeah. Corner is a big weakness for them.
You can throw on like Brady's going to have a day.
I'm saying is you wait and see for Antonio Brown. If he lights up a bad defense like the Dallas Cowboys, I didn't hear any word that they're going to shoot up in the D rankings. So I still think they'll be a bottom D in the league. But if Antonio Brown lights it up, then look at him as a flex option going forward. So that's what you have to do.
I would be wary to start Gronkowski. You probably drafted 1 tight end, so if Gronk's your only guy, start him and see what happens. But 1, for the slow, I think they're going to use him sparingly throughout the season. But 2, Micah Parsons will probably get some coverage of the tight ends, and he looks like the real deal. First round draft pick, what was he, 10th, 11th overall to the Dallas Cowboys, linebacker. Fast, big, strong, looks like the real deal. So I'd be worried about the tight ends on Tampa for week 1. And then running backs. Let's get into these Tampa running backs now, Moose. So Moose would have suggested, if you drafted Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette or anyone else, Moose would have told you not to do that. And why, Moose? Because now you're in a situation where
it's the same thing. If Rojo fumbles, he's out. We've already seen that happen.
So Bruce Arians, head coach, doesn't like fumbles. If a running back fumbles, you're benched.
And let's be honest here. Like, Rojo's pretty good, but it's not like he's been consistent. And Leonard Fournette's there. I just don't. I think it's going to be a committee, or it's going to be one or the other. I wouldn't want to. Maybe as an RB2, but if you're in that position, you're in that position. But I would not have put myself there.
And the interesting thing is, you would probably say that Rojo was the better running back for most of the regular season, with and then parts where he would fumble or make a mistake or drop a pass, he would get benched. But then Leonard Fournette came on strong towards the end of the season in playoffs.
Playoff Lenny.
So Lombardi Lenny. So we're not sure how they're going to start the year. Now, here's the only reason someone might have drafted them. If we never wish for injuries, but we know what happens to running backs. If one or the other, Rojo or Leonard Fournette, were to get injured, the other guy would skyrocket. If you're getting most of the touches for the Tampa Bay Bucs, you got to assume they're going to be winning a lot of games and then trying to run out the clock. There's going to be a lot of points to be had from one of those guys if the other one's not playing. But we don't know at this point.
Yeah. So he's very inconsistent. So even as an RB2, I'm looking, he finished 16th last year, and I think that's why some people are high on him. He had almost 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. I'm looking, he didn't have a strong start to the season. Then he went on a tear, 15.8, 14, 25, 10, then 4, 3, 24, 2, injured.
This is Rojo.
Yeah.
So and Ronald Jones, if you drafted him, he's probably your RB2 or flex. Probably more like flex.
Flex.
Would you flex him? Would you flex him week 1?
I'd flex him, but I still wouldn't be happy about it.
Yeah, I would flex him week 1 because of the bad defense.
I think you can flex him against Dallas. I think their run defense will be better, but yeah, you can flex Ronald Jones. What about Leonard Fournette? Can you flex him?
I think it's the same situation. To me, like Leonard Fournette has decreased in talent. I don't think he's
getting older.
He's getting older,
and he's not that old, but he's a bruising back.
I mean, the guy has
bruisers.
I mean, they ran him in Jacksonville. He's seen a lot of contact.
He's seen a lot of contact, like Jodie Foster in that movie.
She, in fact, only saw the first contact.
Is it First Contact? Is that what it's called, or Contact?
No, I think it's just called Contact.
Yeah, okay. But
I think First Contact's the Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anthony. We brought back Star Trek.
Hey, we made it so many months without talking Star Trek. Have you seen? We'll talk about it later. All right. Anything else?
Did you guys hear why LeVar Burton isn't going to be the host?
Of what?
Well, because Captain Picard would never put his crew on Jeopardy or in Jeopardy.
So you couldn't say the host of what because it's part of the punchline. Is LeVar Burton going to be the host of Jeopardy?
Well, he was one of the candidates.
Oh, man, he'd be great.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting sidetracked. Is that enough on Tampa Bay and Dallas? Who do you predict to win week 1? We got to do a week 1 winner. I'm going to
say Dallas just for the heck of it.
Tampa.
Wild. Tampa Bay Bucs.
I mean, it's probably going to be Tampa.
And over or under 51 points? Total. Is it going to be over or under? I'll start and say over.
Yeah.
Week one, wild things happening. It's going to be over. It's going to be fun, too. That's a fun way to start the year. They always do this with Thursday Night Football. The first
I'll go
game,
over.
Thank you. Anthony? It's not hard. 2 choices.
Yeah, I'll go over.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. We're all over. Yeah, we could be part of the Barstool Over Club. Not a sponsor. The first Thursday Night Football game is always 2 awesome teams, super fun, tons of hype. And then the rest of the year is always like Houston versus the Jets, Jacksonville versus the Jets. Like,
see, like obviously I want to watch good football all the time, but because it's on a Thursday night, it's perfect to fall asleep to.
No, we'd still watch it. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes the bad teams are fun, especially this is the beauty of fantasy
but
football.
By the end of the third, fourth quarter, nothing's happening. Just interceptions going every direction.
Which is fun. Regular NFL, if you don't play fantasy and the Thursday Night Football game is Houston-Jacksonville, it's only Houston-Jacksonville fans watching that game, and then maybe even not. But if you're playing fantasy and you have Trevor Lawrence or James Robinson in that game, Brandon Cook, you're watching and you're into it. So that's the beauty of fantasy football. More sports. Spurts. Okay. All right, so that's it for Tampa, Dallas preview for week 1. Man, it feels good that we're doing game previews and start-sit decisions. Ooh, baby.
Sometimes I'll just stare at Sleeper and just hope that the season just starts. If I look at it,
concentrate hard enough.
If I look at it long enough, the season will just start.
Yeah. I feel you. I get you. All right, what's our last thing we wanted to talk about, guys, before our Reddit segment?
Some last-minute draft.
Oh, wait, hold on. We got one more thing. Darwin Thompson was just signed to the Tampa Bay backfield.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Did we?
Yeah, backtracking.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
No, because we only spoke about Rojo and Fournette. We didn't talk about Gio just now.
Not just now, but we talked about it before.
We mentioned
high ankle sprain. Remember the high ankle sprain?
But we didn't mention that they've brought in Darwin Thompson to potentially be the pass catcher.
But we did.
Listeners know that we did. We did. You can listen back to it later.
Yeah, we mentioned it in the headline, but we didn't talk about it at length.
Okay. Speak your piece on Darwin Thompson. What more do you want to say?
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had to say.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh man. All right. I think there's a survival of the fittest joke in there with Tampa Bay running backs and Darwin, but we'll piece it out for next time. All right, moving on. Last minute draft tips. So a lot of leagues have already drafted, including one of our main leagues last night, but many are drafting this weekend. I know a lot of people turned it into an event, Labor Day weekend.
Was that only last night?
Our draft? Yeah.
My goodness.
Felt like a while ago. Yeah,
I mean, it's like that Greek tragedy thing where the guy wants to go to the grapes, but the water keeps getting deeper. That's what I feel like Thursday is. It's like the closer I get, the farther away I'm getting to the start of the season.
Very good. That's a very good visual. Thanks, Miss. Yes. So a lot of people are drafting this week. So last minute draft tips for our listeners. I'm sure you guys drafted pretty well yesterday. Well, Anthony did. So do you have any last minute draft tips for our listeners? Moose is trying to give himself a challenge. He's the waiver wire. He wants to prove he's the waiver wire king. Win another one.
So
I don't think I think I drafted perfectly fine.
All right.
Well, I'll say this again. I mentioned it a bit yesterday amongst the three of us. I don't like your team, but I didn't like your team last year, and you won. So I mean, I mean, it's bold. The moves that you made were bold, and I mean, it's worked before in the past. So I won't talk too much trash on it. But you're one of my least favorite teams in the league.
You got to risk it for the biscuit.
Guess so.
You know what? But Moose put his best guy forward because he picked. So receivers was one of the places where I was like, Moose, what is he doing? He waited so long to pick a receiver, but he picked several receivers that we've talked about on this podcast that could break out. So if one or two of them breaks out, then he'll be fine. So he's betting on what he's putting his money where his mouth is. So good on you.
Yeah, even on the Kyle Pitts thing. So this is our 2-player keeper league. His keepers are Kittle and Kamara. And then first, he was the 4th pick, took Kyle Pitts. And
boom.
I mean,
boom, Kittle Pitts, boomsies.
I mean,
Kittle.
It's a keeper league that I've already won 3 times. So why I just take? I don't care if I don't win this year. I take Kittle, and or I take Pitts, and if he blows up, I've got a keeper.
Right. So what I was going to say too is last year you took, I think, Cam Akers in this round at the back end. And you didn't play him the whole season, but you kept him like Dave should have done with Justin Jefferson. And then you played Cam Akers in the playoffs. And
I might not drop any players all year. I might just, even if I'm like 0-4, I'm like, gotta keep my guys. Gotta keep my guys this year.
But all right. So speaking about drafts, we're gonna mention any point we want. So one of the main things. So now we are 18 weeks. And so playoffs should be made to be or start week 15 because week 14, there are bye weeks. So unless you want to deal with that crap in your playoffs, I would say move your league to start your change the rules in your league to start the playoffs week 15. That's a
commissioner tip. Yeah. I got a last minute draft tip for our friends out there. Drafting defense. So there's a handful of defenses that you might draft and keep the whole year because they're so good. Like the New England Patriots, when was it, last year, the year before? They were better than running backs most weeks. But those are only a handful, and you might grab one of those if you want. If you want to secure yourself a great defense, awesome. But if you're going to be streaming defenses, which means changing them, maybe keeping a defense for a few weeks, dropping them, picking up another one, then what you might want to target is a defense that has a really favorable matchup week 1 or even weeks 1, 2, 3. So you're at least drafting a defense that will start the season strong. So that if you're not getting the Washington football team, the Tampa Bay Bucs, the Baltimore Ravens, draft a team that's playing the Jets week 1 or the Houston Texans week 1. These are never bad options.
So to go further with that, even look forward to the playoff week. So I know
then that would be a defense you're probably keeping then.
Right.
Yeah.
So I use that strategy that you said, look at the first few weeks, and I looked at the back end. So in our keeper league yesterday, our main league, I drafted the San Francisco 49ers. They start the season playing Detroit, then the Houston Texans. So great start for them, and they're a strong D already. We know this.
Them playing their first 3 weeks, Detroit, Green Bay, Philly, which is still good. Detroit and Philly, the first 3 weeks. But I have them finishing championship week against Houston.
Atlanta, and it's Atlanta, Titans, and then
Houston. That's what I got. Yeah. That's
okay,
a pretty good playoff schedule. So San Fran, and they should be one of the top defenses anyways. So you could keep them for the year if you need to, because San Francisco is strong.
Oh yes, you're correct. So it was the Eagles week 2, which is also we believe will be a weak team. So great start.
Probably gonna be a lot of interceptions.
Yes, depending who's playing. I don't know. I like. I don't know. The Giants seem to be a bit of a mess. They're playing, and Denver Broncos playing the Giants week 1. Then they're playing
Denver Broncos are going to be top 2.
Then they're playing Jacksonville. Then they're playing the Jets. Those first 3 weeks are money. So Broncos will be a good start to the year. And their playoff schedule is not terrible. So I think Denver Broncos, put them on your list.
Yeah.
Okay. Other draft tips. Moose, you're up, buddy.
Yeah. I don't know how to correctly say this tip, but I'll do my best. During the draft, assuming you've already prepared your lists and your rankings, fade all past player glory out of your mind. And any kind of memory you have of a certain player being fantastic or having a big catch and you're like, oh, I recognize that name, I'm taking that guy. Stick to your list, stick to your rankings. Don't let big names of people who might have injuries that you know, in the moment, you're like, oh no, he's going to be healthy this season. Stick to the research you've done, stick to your gut feelings, and draft the people that you want to draft. And don't change your mind mid-draft.
Yeah.
Terrific. Anthony, back on you.
Oh,
next draft tip.
I mean, this is just being a good fantasy football player. Show up to your draft, people. Don't put your commissioner in a tough spot. And you know, it throws off the whole draft having guys auto draft, and you know, it's hard for people to find time to do their drafts. I know sometimes in our leagues, a lot of people
also be respectful. I mean, if you're in the middle of a flash flood, I mean, I think you can auto draft.
Right. Barring any serious issues, I mean, make it to your draft. Make an appointment in your phone. Put it on your calendar. You can even in Sleeper, you can put a reminder. Have your
it'll text you.
Yeah, that's it. And we even say, don't forget to put on your notifications. Oh, baseball cap.
I was trying to finish your sentence.
Yeah, we wouldn't make a good couple, Moose. It's not. We're not on the same par.
Page.
Par?
I don't know. I meant to say page. I ruined that whole bit. But anyways, the point is, turn on your notifications in whatever platform you're playing on. League updates, messages from the commissioner. It's important.
Yeah, definitely show up to your draft. Here's a draft tip for you. This is more for experienced veterans, because if you're new to fantasy football, you just want to focus on getting your guys drafting. But if you have a little bit more experience and your draft is not the day before the league play starts, what you can do is not draft a kicker, and you can draft someone knowing and this is dependent on if your league has an IR spot, but you can draft someone who you know you can put on your IR, for example, a Michael Thomas. So you guys were high on drafting Michael Thomas pretty early. You said like round 5, although none of you did. But let's say you draft Michael Thomas.
We weren't in the opportunity to do so.
You didn't draft him in round 5 or 6?
Well,
because I wasn't in the opportunity to do so.
So part of Moose's draft tips, and what I also said is, if we have players ranked ahead of him at the wide receiver position, we wouldn't take him over those players. As well as maybe we didn't take a wide receiver that round. We took a running back. So that's what you have to look at as well.
Okay. So if you were to draft someone that is on IR, what you can do is not draft a kicker, finish off your draft, and then go and slot your guy into the IR, and then go pick up your kicker. Now you have an extra person on your team, if your league allows that. So it's a little sneaky one. We had 2 people do that in our league, and it might work out pretty well for them. They got Michael Thomas sitting on their IR. Pretty sweet. That's a draft tip for you. I'm just going to check Michael Thomas when he was drafted here. All right, what's up next?
I mean, yeah, I don't know if you have one, Moose.
I don't think I have another tip.
Okay. Michael Thomas was drafted yesterday in round 7.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
By who? I just want to.
Mike Goss.
Mike Goss.
Killing it. Yeah.
It's a good time to draft him.
I mean, yeah, round 7 is a little more appropriate than round 5 where you guys had him, but didn't take him.
Well, we weren't. You're missing. The draft didn't work out so that we could take him.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Well, I'm also at the back end, so there are other positions I might need to fulfill because I have to wait a while.
Just busting your chops. Just busting your chops, guys. Are your chops okay?
The chops are fine.
Your chops are fine? All right, we're good. All right. Last thing I'll say for your draft tips, just be chill. be chill. And especially if you've been mocking a lot, it rarely, if ever, goes exactly how you're going to mock. So there will be, there'll probably be a player, they're like, I wanted him and he's gone. Don't let that get you rattled. There's plenty, if you've done your research, you've been listening to the podcast, there's plenty of players out there that are going to have good fantasy seasons and help you win. So don't panic if one of your players gets nabbed. Stay calm, stay adaptable, and go crush it. And have a beer if you're a beer drinker. It's going to help. It can help keep you relaxed. Awesome. All right, guys. I think our listeners are ready. If they've been listening to the podcast, they're going to crush their Labor Day weekend drafts. Absolutely dominate. We ready for the next segment?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Oh, baby. Well, it's time for a little Thursday night version of They Said It on Reddit.
I was a little bit different on the set at you. You did a little.
I did some hand gestures too. You feeling that, or was it bad?
It wasn't. It was okay. It wasn't. Okay. It wasn't my favorite.
Moose is a traditional guy. He wants it the same. You want it to be the.
It wasn't the hands. You did a little pitch difference there.
Okay. Oh my! I'll jot that down. I'll note that down. I found my pen, by the way.
Oh, good. It was still fantastic though.
Thank you. All right. So this one's coming from user Beersy13.
I love him already.
Or her. Myles Gaskin ? Is the header. What's the verdict on Myles Gaskin? Is he an RB2 or RB3 flex with high upside? I keep hearing it's an RB committee in Miami, and I'm hesitant to scoop Gaskin. Do you think we will see enough fantasy opportunity from him to be a serviceable RB2? Does he have the talent to support this? On the Fantasy Footballers MVP pod, Jamie from CBS called Gaskin his MVP and highlighted his catching ability, but he's the only expert I follow that's being tooting his horn. I know Justin Boone from The Score is definitely down on him, so where is his real value? He's dropped to the 5th, 6th round in my mock drafts.
Okay, so great question. Moose, want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first just by saying I drafted him, and that should speak volumes.
Well, it shouldn't, because you're like not a win it at the draft, and you're more of a recover from your failures at the draft.
The point is, he's a Miami Dolphin.
Oh God! Oh, that does speak volumes. Oh, I didn't even think about that when you drafted him yesterday. Oh my God, you drafted a Dolphin, Moose.
Drafted a
Going
Dolphin.
Against your cardinal rule.
I know.
That's got to be some bad karma somewhere. I don't know.
No, I think, you know what, Moose? This is it. Moose is like, you know what? I'm bored with my 3 championships, so I'm gonna have 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds, essentially, with the keepers, and I'm gonna draft a Miami Dolphin and still win. He wants to make it a challenge, see if he can win going against all odds. That's great. So here, I'll tell you, I do have to speak this about Myles Gaskin to our listeners. I think when we did our running back, our most recent draft rankings, we had him skyrocketed up the rankings because of a slight Excel spreadsheet error, human error / Excel spreadsheet error. So his true rankings is as we posted on our Instagram account, 3B Fantasy Pod. If you're not already following, go check it out. And he's ranked. And Halftime Sports, please, Halftime Sports app. He is ranked 21st. So we have him consensus ranked as an RB2. And I think that's a fine spot for him. I think he's going to be in that range. And we always say this, but if he stays healthy, he will finish as an RB2. I believe.
I feel that I'm kind of low on him. I have him at 27th in my personal. But I do have him in the same category as guys that are within the same or have the same issue on their team. So like Chase Edmonds with James Conner, Melvin Gordon with Javonte Williams. So basically, I think that you have 3 solid running backs on Miami. Salvin Ahmed.
Ahmed.
Is it Ahmed? Because I looked at the spelling after, and is it pronounced Ahmed but not spelled that way?
My understanding is you can just say whatever name you want. I was listening to a guy today who called him Raheem Mostert.
Well, that's obviously not right.
Well, I know, but
doesn't mean you can't call him whatever you want.
Brian
Mostert.
I'm just saying nobody knows.
And
like
you guys
know Brian?
I've heard Ahmed the most.
Okay, so I'll keep it at Salvin Ahmed, because you guys didn't correct me when I would say it that way, but then I looked at the spelling, I'm like, oh boy. But anyways, so Salvin Ahmed, Malcolm Brown, and Myles Gaskin, obviously running back by committee. I do think Myles Gaskin will get the first touches, but I'm going to compare them to the Rams last year. I mean, it's a different team, but bear with me. So Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, and Cam Akers. In that order, you had 138 attempts, 101 attempts, and 145 attempts. Cam Akers had the most attempts, but was the least productive back out of the group. He also played the least amount of games. So basically what I'm saying is Malcolm Brown will get his fair share of touches, and I think Salvin Ahmed only played 6 games. So in his 6 games, he was a waiver wire pickup. He was able to be a decent fantasy option for you guys in weeks if you had an injury or depending on matchups. So I think with those 3 guys there and all of them going to get work, I think Myles Gaskin can't be that high. And referring to the guy he was talking about from CBS Sports, that guy, I saw his take on it online, and he thinks that he could finish number 1, the best running back in fantasy. That's not going to happen.
That's a bit much.
Well, it can definitely happen if there's 25 other injuries. Just starting right
yes, 25 other injuries, and somebody goes down within his team. So I think Malcolm Brown will vulture touchdowns, which will remove his remove some value from him.
So I don't disagree with what you're saying, Anthony, because honestly, Malcolm Brown vulturing the touchdowns is something we've addressed before, and it's something I've thought about. However, last season, I was also a firm believer that Jordan Howard was going to be the guy in Miami, and then Myles Gaskin showed up and just dominated. And I'm pretty sure last season they were talking committee.
Moose Jordan who?
Jordan Howard.
Thank you.
But just before you continue, I want to put a little side note. Who was the guy on the podcast saying don't draft Jordan Howard?
I don't recall. I don't recall.
That's why I said. I already said we were.
No, I know, but you were high on him. But I'm saying like there were signs pointing to him not being productive.
Yeah. So and then it turned out that he apparently just showed up in Miami, and Miami just said, "No, we don't want to use you." And that's why it didn't.
And Matt Breda was there as well.
Yeah. So even there was all types of committee there last season, and Myles Gaskin came out on top. So honestly, I'm as an owner, I guess I have a little bit of bias, but I'm thinking that Malcolm Brown is a depth piece, and it's going to be the Myles Gaskin show with Salvon Ahmed sprinkled in here and there.
So here's my take on it. Will he probably be a serviceable RB2? Yes. But there are dangers and risks there that could drop him down. So I wouldn't be super comfortable with him as my RB2. I want someone who's as RB2 who's going to be who doesn't have competition, and who's going to be doesn't have to be a stud, but definitely getting the bulk load of the work. So guys I would prefer are like Mike Davis.
With Wayne Gallman there?
Yeah, it's only Wayne Gallman. I might even prefer Damien Harris. I prefer Gus Edwards. I drafted Gus Edwards my RB2. He's pretty much the only guy there. So I'm not super high Myles Gaskin, but he can be okay.
So
He'll probably be fine.
I mean, and like just to piggyback off what you were saying in our draft yesterday. So not a mock draft, guys. I'm just looking at options Moose could have taken, or was there any options better than Gaskin? So right after Miles Sanders went, all 3 of us are very low on Miles Sanders. So no, I would take Gaskin over Sanders. Would you take Henderson over Gaskin?
No.
I probably would, yeah.
I would as well because I ranked him higher. Kareem Hunt over Gaskin.
Definitely.
I would as well. Javonte Williams over Gaskin.
If you're comfortable with waiting 4 weeks. Javonte Williams. So Myles Gaskin will be better to start the year than Javonte Williams, but somewhere Javonte Williams is going to take over.
Yeah. And then Mike Davis and Gus Edwards went. I don't think you're taking Javonte Williams at that spot where he took Gaskin. I think it's way too early. So I mean, it's preference at this point. You're at the back end of the running backs that are available to be your starting running back, and I mean, I don't think it's a bad pick from what was available, because we know he is going to get the first touch. And Henderson, we know, is injury prone. Kareem Hunt is the RB2. Javonte Williams will need a few weeks. So Gaskin was the best option there.
Plus, I mean, Sore Knees Michelle is there now.
Sore Knees Michelle. Dave, that should be your team name. Because you drafted Sony Michelle.
Yeah, we'll see. Sony. Well, there's some stuff there. You really got to go with just fun names, not necessarily. Well, and he's a bench player, so. All right. I was drumming up how to pronounce Salvin Ahmed. Do you want me to play it?
Sure.
Okay. Here we go.
If it's appropriate.
Well, it's the same people we always use on the YouTube.
I mean,
are you okay with it? Who's
no.
approved? Okay. Well, then we're not doing it.
No.
Fine.
I don't trust us. I don't trust us.
It's not super reliable, but
well, I don't trust some. We got a quality control what we're playing here.
Okay. All right, guys. That does it. I did not drink a beer on this podcast, but it's probably the first day. Like, so many beers have been consumed on this vacation, and I did have plenty of wine for dinner. Now, here's a cool thing: when you leave, so when you grow up in a city, I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up in Montreal, I wasn't frequently going to like the best Montreal restaurants and like going around finding good spots, the old port and cool stuff. But now that when you visit, you go out a little more. You're almost like a tourist. So, but this has to be one of the best restaurants in Montreal. I have been there before, and it is an Italian restaurant, an Italian steakhouse restaurant in LaSalle, La Campagnola, and it is phenomenal. Have you guys been yet?
No.
Put it on your to-do list. Take your significant others soon. Boom. Book it. Fantastic. Great service. Delicious food. I had a breaded veal, milk-fed veal stuffed with prosciutto and provolone on top of a bed of gnocchi. My goodness. And appetizers, forget about it. Mozzarella di bufalo. No, we had a burrata and some smoked salmon. Hickory smoked salmon. I know you like hickory smoked things. So,
do you realize what he just did? He's just like deflecting. It's like, or distracting us from the reason he didn't have a beer.
What?
He was just like, I didn't have a beer, but listen to this restaurant.
Let me say all these Italian words.
I was so stuffed. I couldn't have a beer.
I had the mozzarella. It's too much.
The burrata.
Mozzarella di buffalo. It's in my stomach.
It's too much.
All right. You couldn't get a Peroni in there or something of that nature?
No, I had some soda water to settle everything down. It was a lot. I ate too much. Ate too much.
All right, well, I'll give you guys one guess what I'm drinking.
Oh, Heineken. Every time you say
incorrect,
one guess,
it's a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh, I saw it before, too. I should have known. You tricked us. PBR. It goes down easy, PBR.
I like PBR. PBR's the best.
Yeah.
My can's the same color, but nowhere near. It's Michelob Ultralight.
It's nowhere near beer either.
Yeah. You're just having the same as me, I think. You can't make fun of me and then also.
Mine has some alcohol percent.
Like it's not even light. It's not even light. It's ultra light. Ultra.
Anyways,
I had it once. I can't. I just like McLob ultra light.
McLob.
Michelob.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolina. All right.
Garoppolina.
Words of wisdom heading into Labor Day weekend and draft.
Also, hold on.
Weekend.
Real quick.
Okay.
Anthony, did you see the Jimmy Garoppolo Velociraptor side by side?
Yeah. And when you wrote, how do you not find this funny? I was like,
one, I didn't write that.
Or whatever you wrote.
He said, not even a comment?
Not even a comment.
And then I laughed because I didn't notice it at first. And then I noticed it after. And then he said something else like, Anthony, serious?
That's what you wasted the end of like us closing out halftime.
Did talk about that on our halftime live show for quite a bit. Like we were waiting.
I think it's hilarious. If you squint a little bit, I mean, obviously one's a dinosaur and one's Jimmy Garoppolo. But
are you saying if you squint a little bit, you can't tell who's the Velociraptor and who's Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, but you could. They kind of look like.
I showed it to my brother as a test and be like, I thought it was funny when I saw it, and I was like, and I remember seeing it way back when, and I sent it to my brother. I was like, check it out. That's he's not a fancy guy, so I'm like, that's Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, and he's like, he's like, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm like, is it funny? He's like, yeah, I don't know. Don't look.
Yeah, that was exactly my response. Okay. That was my response.
So I mean, I'm not saying it's the greatest joke of all time. I'm just saying.
I find it funny.
Kind of looks like a velociraptor.
The smile and the shape of the nose. Now you got to post it. Not Moose. Now you got to post it on our Instagram story and put, is this funny? We didn't invent it. Put a poll. Is this funny? Put a poll. Is it funny? Yes or no?
It's not what's important to me. I don't care if it's funny or not. I would just.
But that's exactly what you care about.
No. All I care about is if other people see the similarity that I see. I don't care if people find it funny.
Okay, so what do you want the poll to be on Instagram?
I don't know.
Do they look alike, or is this funny? And you post the picture.
We can put both. Why not both?
Okay. That's actually a great idea. So if you're not already following us, 3B Fantasy Pod on Instagram. You can also find us on Twitter.
I have the third
email.
option.
Okay.
We just
the
don't
third
do
option
anything.
is Moose's sure. Just a sure.
Sure.
What do you mean? Wait, on the post?
Polls can only have 2 options, yes or no. Or you can write them whatever you want, but 2 options on polls on Instagram.
Oh.
No third option. Sorry. Oh, unless you do A, B, C, D, 4 choices. But then it's not a poll. It's like you get one of them has to be correct, the correct answer, like multiple choice. Anyways, we're going way off. Get on 3B Fantasy Pod on Instagram
for everything,
and you go decide for yourself.
Ask Dave.
Yeah, and get the Halftime Sports app to listen to our live show.
Yeah. Well, here's the great thing. If you want start-sit advice, which is the big thing throughout the season, and waiver wire advice from the waiver wire wizard himself, Moose, then you're going to probably the best way to do that is come on Halftime Sports live, 10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, and just ask us directly in the chat or come on and be like, hey, should I start Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette? And we'd be like, neither. Why are they both on your team?
Yeah, and shout out to Philippe on Instagram.
Philip from Finland.
Philip from Finland.
Yeah.
He's been reaching out to us a lot.
And you know what? We're helping him out, and he's new to fantasy, and we love having him. So hit us up on Instagram. We'll answer. It's too bad that league redrafted because I took Philip pick by pick through his draft without seeing a screen, just on Instagram messaging. He's like, who should I take here? And you're 45. He's like, quick, 45 seconds. And I was helping him out through his draft.
I hope his league isn't listening.
Yeah. You don't want to.
They redrafted anyways. So it was an excellent team. He was killing it. And then they were like, oh, there's too many injuries. Got to redraft. That, which is bogus, by the way. It's like it was the J.K. Dobbins owner being like, we got to redraft now. J.K. Dobbins is out. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. That's
come on,
silly.
man. Come on, man. All right, guys. That's it for me.
Yep.
Yeah. Put your best gut forward this weekend if you're drafting, and get your guys. Go get your guys.
Your guys. Awesome. As always, thanks for listening. See you next time.
Ciao.